Good evening, family. Good evening, family.
Good evening.
All right, I'm Eric J. Chambers. I don't think Kelly said my name, but Mrs. Mamie.
Eric J. Chambers.
Mrs. Mamie Till Mobley was my surrogate grandmother, and I brought her to San Diego in 2000 when I executive produced a play called The State of Mississippi versus Emmett Till. That was in October of 2000, and from that day up until the day she died, we became very close. It was more than just her coming for that weekend, but again, she became a surrogate grandmother to me, and I was honored to have spoken at her funeral. And I was looking at a documentary that I did on her earlier this week, and just with my presentation from that particular day at her service, which was like a 5-hour funeral there in Chicago. But one of the things that she told me when she came to San Diego, I was giving her a hug as we were about to take her to the airport, and I said, Miss Mobley, thank you so much for coming and being a part of this weekend with us. She was here Friday through Sunday, and she said, Mr. Chambers, I needed this more than you needed this, because she said I needed to be here more than you you needed me here, because she said I thought that they had forgotten about me. So as we see the movie here, we see her celebrated, but the reality of it, the latter part of her life, she told me on that particular day that there was a time when she was dressed for church waiting on a ride that never came to pick her up. But nevertheless, at her funeral, it was a 5-hour funeral with everybody and their mama and daddy speaking at it. And so she was just elated. And what I did, I'm a documentary filmmaker, and so what I did is I interviewed her on video, got a lot of pictures, and then I also interviewed her for my radio show. I have a show called The Jaspel. It's 28 years old. It airs on Smooth Jazz 98.1 KIFM every Sunday morning. And so I decided that while she was here, I was going to do my part to continue her legacy long after she's gone. And Miss Mobley died on January 5th, 2003. And to this day, and just like with Keith Beauchamp, Keith is the guy who produced this picture, this film, and I texted him when I got here to let him know I'm here representing for him. But we both are from Louisiana. We both went to Southern University, and we always wonder, it's like, how did, we got connected through Mrs. Mobley. And we're always amazed that two fellas from Southern University, him on the East Coast, me on the West Coast, and we end up being two of the drum majors for this story. So I'm proud of Keith. I was with him a couple of weeks ago when they did the premiere here in LA. That's where I got the t-shirt from. And then I've had other opportunities to speak regarding this. And on behalf of Mrs. Mobley, for those of you who saw this, she would be very pleased. And on behalf of her, I encourage you to have your constituents to vote. Because of the fact, in fact, one of the things, when she came to San Diego for the play, we had a sparse crowd. It cost me about $6,000 to do it, and I took a financial bloodbath, but it was the best financial bloodbath I've ever taken. But I asked her, I said, Mrs. Mobley, there's a lot of people who didn't come because they said they didn't want to basically watch the devastation that happened to your son. Her answer to me, and I've got it on tape, her answer to me was, watching it for entertainment purposes, as far as the play was concerned, is a whole different story from living it. And family, I felt that this woman at the time she was 79 years old, and I threw her a birthday party while she was with us. But it was interesting to me that this lady could sit here and watch her worst nightmare with 3 performances: Friday night, a matinee on Saturday, and then a Saturday night one. And then you got people saying that, oh, it's too painful to watch. It's an excuse to me. If we could watch shoot 'em up, bang bang movie, surely we can watch this. And so I thank you guys for, again, I thank you guys for supporting this film. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to do my best to continue to help tell the story. And I have a documentary that I'm working on right now. It's called Mrs. Mamie and Me. And basically it's going to be about that particular weekend that I had her in San Diego, because people always want to know, what was it like, having her there. And family, it was amazing. And I even have pictures A lot of pictures, and one of my favorite pictures is a picture of us at lunch on that Saturday afternoon with me, her, and there's about 3 or 4 of us together getting ready to break bread. And that is one of my favorite pictures in the whole wide world. But I loved her dearly, she loved me, and at the time I was married, and I remember I even have video still of her on the phone with my wife at the time, giving her motherly advice based on her motherly experience with Bo. And lastly, what people don't realize is this: Emmett was her only child, and she was her mother's only child. So when they killed Emmett, they killed her bloodline. And so as a result, that's one of the reasons why I've embraced her as a surrogate mother. And the same thing in the case with Keith. He was very close to her, Keith Beauchamp. And so we are 2 of the people who are continuing to tell this story. And as we continue to tell the story, it is a constant reminder to us that we're not out of the woods.
No.
You know, stuff is still happening right now.
Yes.
And we are hanging by a thread with our democracy
Yes.
even as we speak. And as I was telling a friend just a couple of days ago in San Diego about the fact that I don't take this for granted simply because just as they undid Roe versus Wade, who's to say that they can't undo the 13th Amendment and other stuff? So that's why you got to continue to exercise your right to vote.
Yes.
And when you do vote, think about Mrs. Mamie Till Mobley. Think about Sister Rosa Parks, who was also my friend. Think about all of those who came before us, who had dogs sicked on them, who had water hoses showered on them, so that a little fella from Louisiana named Eric J. Chambers would be able to vote without intimidation. As you see, the intimidation, it's already returned in a lot of different states. So we got to make sure that the sacrifices that have been made with people like Emmett Lewis Till and all of the others, that it was not in vain.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Eric.
you.